got the men here. We got the boys here for a Hey Boy Hey special episode.
We're letting them take over. You never had a bad boy phase, or did you?
Trying to
Find a
get that
bad
dirt.
boy. There were times of life where I'm probably less proud of myself.
Politician
No.
answer.
I mean, I kind of want to get into red flags.
Some people like to chase. Some people love that game of chasing. Guys love that sometimes. Is that what you want? Do you want somebody who likes the games? Because that's going to cause more games later on.
But if we're talking about, like, I'm just going to be real, like body count,
Yeah.
I don't think that's useful
Yeah.
information.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
You could
Straight
do-
up toxic.
Yeah, no,
To the relationship.
1,000%. I do get frustrated because like people are so young and they're so fixated on like getting married, and I'm like, dude, woman, you haven't even figured out your own stuff in life. Like, why you're taking those steps? Maybe the Lord might bless you with that husband or that wife.
It's like I would never advise a 16-year-old to get married. Like I wouldn't advise a 22-year-old to get married.
You're going to lose. You're going to have a casual relationship, and the odds are it's probably going to fall apart.
Hey, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Hey Girl, Hey podcast. I'm your host, Kaylin.
And I'm Lori.
And we're here with two very special guests. We have Kai back for another episode. And we also have Brandon. Woo!
First time on video, but second or third time on the podcast.
Yes. And then y'all are married. We are dating.
This is my man.
Yes, we got the men here. We got the boys here. For a Hey Boy Hey special episode.
Yeah, we're letting them take over. So
Yes, it'll be fun. What's your guys' enchantment for this week?
we're going to Nashville and Pennsylvania, New York, and Indiana next week to visit my brother and my sister-in-law and they're having a baby. So I think it's fine to say this, that we're going to do a baby shower for them over there.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
In all four.
States.
Oh, well, we're going to Indiana. Yeah, in every single state. We're going to Indiana for that, to visit them and throw a baby shower. But then while we're over there on that neck of the woods, we're going to do a road trip
Oh, that'd be fun.
up to New York.
That'd be fun.
That's
The
awesome.
whole family on a road trip. It's going to be
Yeah.
a blast.
That should be.
But your
Dang.
mom is from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so if she's from that area, we want to go see your family's upbringing, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see the beavers
That'd be
and
dope.
the
That'd be really
creeks
cool.
in Amish country.
That'd be
Dang,
really
that's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, we are also going on a trip to Hawaii.
That wins.
Oh,
We're going in August for our friend's 1-year wedding celebration extravaganza. We're excited.
That's so cool.
But it'll be my first time in Hawaii. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
And this is Kai's like millionth time.
Are you
Hawaii.
serious?
I love Hawaii.
He
We go-
loves it, yeah.
We go frequently.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
year or how frequent?
I haven't been this year, but yeah, pretty much like probably since 2020. I would go like 2-3 times a year.
Dang, haven't
Yeah.
even been once.
Yeah,
Oh, you haven't been either?
Not at all. He's
Oh.
been when he was like 12 or
Dude,
a long time ago.
It's like paradise. They say it's like one of two things for people. Either like you love it, like you fall in love with it, you want to move there, or you just absolutely hate it.
Why would you hate it? The tourists?
I don't know. I personally have no idea. I love the culture. I love the weather. I love the
Which
water.
island? Because I know it's a different
Oahu.
experience. Oahu? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
that's where like most people go. Like that's like where Waikiki is, like Honolulu and things like that. But
Yeah.
you get the mountains, you get the ocean. Like it's like
Oh, so pretty.
it's ridiculous.
And is that where you guys are going? Is Oahu?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it would be like North Shore for everybody that knows. But,
oh yeah.
it would
I
be
know,
pretty
I'm like,
cool.
I ain't got no clue. So
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride.
Love that.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, should we just dive on in?
Heck yeah.
So we had you guys submit some dating questions, dating advice questions, and we thought we'd pick your guys' brain and
Put you on the hot seat.
yeah, hot seat for this Hey Boy Hey special. Alrighty, Lori, do you want to
Kick us off?
Yeah, do it.
The question is like, what do guys look for in a partner for a serious relationship versus a casual dating scenario?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or actually, first, have you always dated to be serious, or have you ever dated like just to be
Yeah.
casual and keep it
I
light?
mean, honestly, no, I haven't always dated to be serious. Probably
Okay.
within like the last I'd say like 3 years maybe. Before that, I was a pretty bad person, and I was only looking for casual.
Okay.
So yeah, really big change up. The Lord's worked on me. But I think to kind of like part 2 of the question at least is like more just like characteristics of like the woman if you are looking to be like a little bit more serious. And just like certain things that like I don't know, we talk about like red flags, yellow flags, this and the third. But I don't know, kind of evaluating, looking at the character, looking at their heart, and just asking yourself if like this is somebody that you're willing to go through hard with. Because I think every relationship is going to be hard. And I think that marriage is about kind of like choosing who you're willing to like go through the hard with, more so in a sense. So just characteristics more so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brandon, did you ever date casually? I feel like you've always been, like if you went on a date, it was to see if there could be something more.
I always had intent behind dating. I dated just to date, but by casual, I mean extremely casual. No, nothing serious whatsoever. Like, hey, it's almost like more of a friend and not a long-term kind of friend. Just like, hey, this is an activity almost, so to speak. So never casual in the sense of like, no, I'm just dating to date and just dating to date around. Like I was always looking for something. I never wanted to put myself out there if I wasn't at least open to the idea of something more. And honestly, I was kind of scared of that. I was like, well, I know that I could probably get attached because I'm an emotional person. I could get attached. If I'm going to get attached to somebody, I want it to be real. I want it to be serious.
I respect that, Ton. Yeah, that makes sense.
You never had a bad boy phase? Or did you?
I don't know how you define a bad boy phase. There's great times of life, and there were times of life where I'm probably less proud of myself, but I never had like a really bad phase.
Politician answers.
Yeah. Hats off.
We've never really actually talked about like the
Before?
like the parts of our life where we're less proud. I feel like obviously we've talked about like decisions like that weren't the best, but not like, you know, those shameful things. We've never brought that up.
Yeah, but when you're a different person, it's not there's not a lot of reasons to talk about to dive deep into history and past of painful things unless you need to go through that. You need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's always been the reason why, because it just didn't feel like healthy to bring that stuff up. But also like with questions like this, I really don't know with his history.
I'm not going to lie. I want to know it all, to be honest.
Really?
Just off the simple fact that I feel like everything that you've gone through in your life has made you who you are today. And whether that can also be in the sense of like things that trigger somebody, you know, or things that like hit a little home for her, this and the third. So that I can be more so aware, and like just be able to see like if I am hitting those buttons or kind of things to kind of stay away from more so in a sense. And like when, you know, you talk about like shame, this and the third, it's like something I will always remind her of is that like she can't be shameful of it, because like without her going through all the different things in life like that, like I want to get this version of her, which I'm just so grateful for.
Wow.
You know, so.
Yeah. I think every couple is different.
Yes.
And also, I love how you said, like, sharing kind of your past in a sense of knowing each other's triggers. I think that is beneficial. Like if something happened to me in childhood and he's like, and then something's happening now and he's like, wait, why are you reacting this way? Like, you know, why are you doing XYZ? And I'm like, oh, well, it's because something happened to me as a child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's super important. But if we're talking about like, I'm just going to be real, like body count. Yeah. I don't think that's useful information. I think that's like, is it useful or is it hurtful or can be kind of hurtful or
helpful or hurtful?
Yeah. And so I just think every couple is different. If you want to know that, hats off to you. But
no, I think she hit it on the home with what I was saying. I wasn't meaning the childish thing.
Well, you're meaning there's purposeful conversation behind this, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be hiding anything. You should not be holding back. And if there's a reason why you're feeling some sort of way, your person should know. You shouldn't be afraid to say, hey, I had this experience, or I did this, or like, 100%. You shouldn't be holding back. It shouldn't be something you shouldn't talk about, but it's not something that should just be casual conversation, because your relationship is about you. It has nothing to do with anybody else. And sometimes that 100%. Sometimes it's not productive.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Kind of going, I guess, feeling safe with somebody and feeling just building that trust. How can somebody effectively express their needs and boundaries in like a dating relationship? Like, how does that naturally come up, I guess?
Expressing needs and boundaries. Well, the first thing is you need to be comfortable saying it. And if you're not comfortable expressing those boundaries with a person, if they don't make you comfortable in saying, hey, this hurts. Hey, don't go there. Let's not. If you're not comfortable with that, then either you need to have conversations about it and gain some sort of understanding, because maybe it's something inside you, maybe you're worried, or maybe they make you feel a certain way and they close you off so that you're not willing to communicate.
And that's something to pay attention to when dating.
If you're not willing to communicate, or not necessarily willing, if you're not able to communicate in a healthy manner and express those things, that's going to impact you in all sorts of conversations in the future, not just this instance, right? This circumstance.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. I think you hit on the nail on that one. I think it really is up to both people in the relationship to create that safe space for one another, to be able to be that vulnerable and that open, to be able to communicate those different boundaries in a sense. And I do think if that's not happening, then like you said, conversations need to be had, or, different steps need to be taken.
But there's ways to bring that up that are less intimidating, rather than just saying, you make me feel this way, or I don't like this about you. You can start it with a question, and you can ask them, hey, how do you feel about when I'm upset? If I'm upset, how does that make you feel? And how does that manifest in you? What is your reaction to that? And once they have opened up,
effectively approach you, so we can have a healthy conversation.
Sometimes one person is much more open to just putting themselves out there. And so if you're the one who's nervous about putting your feelings out there, ask your partner. Say, how does this make you feel? And once they've opened up, it's a guarantee you'll feel so much more open to expressing yourself. So
1,000%.
Don't be afraid to be the one to ask a question rather than just to blurt something out there. Especially if you know that your person doesn't take well to maybe accusations. Starting that with a question, it can really help open it up.
One of my many advices my therapist gives me is always remain curious. And like you said, curiosity is opened up when you just ask a simple question, or like, hey, like, how can I, XYZ, fill in the blank, just asking. And then also, even when it comes to needs, I feel like he does a great job of checking in on me. Like, we'll do like an exercise of like, hey babe, like, what's on your heart? Or, what do you need right now from me? Or what do you need in this instance? And, sometimes, for an example, I overextend myself.
What do you mean?
I like to hang out with everyone and make time for everything. And, then my battery is on low and I'm running on E, and he'll be like, babe, what do you think you need? I'm like, man, I just need a me day where I can go to a coffee shop, unplug, and just chill for a couple of hours. And he'll give me, that space to do that. But sometimes I'm like, man, I really don't know what I need. Can we just like cuddle and watch a movie?
Yeah.
It's like kind of expressing it in that way too.
Yeah.
Nice. Follow-up question. So I don't know about you guys, but Brandon and I have different styles when it comes to communication and like confrontation and expressing needs and stuff. So that was definitely an adjustment that we both had to make when we got married and even started dating, but especially in marriage, because that's like, I want to keep the marriage healthy. And I wear my heart on my sleeves. So like, if I'm upset about something, like, I don't hold it in. Like, we can talk about attachment types. Like, I am not that avoidant attachment. I want to close the gap. So like, for him, if there's a problem, he's going to know about, or for me, if there's a problem, he's going to know about it. And for him, I think it's fair to say, right, that you are the opposite. Like, if there's a problem, you kind of try to ignore it or like sweep it under the rug. And in our marriage, you've had to work on expressing those concerns to me and opening up.
Yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't say it's a polar opposite, because in my mind, I don't want things that are not problems to become problems. So if there's something that just kind of bothers me a little bit, or that that's just, I don't know, maybe it's just not me, not my style, how I would have handled something. In my mind, I don't want to make a problem out of something that shouldn't be a problem. And so I hold a lot of things in, and I don't necessarily wear my heart on my sleeve because I want to see the full picture before I go accusing, before I go throwing words out there that might be hurtful, when really I'm just jumping at the gun. And I'm reacting too quickly. I'm reacting emotionally rather than with the whole picture. Yeah. And so my responses take a long time to emerge, to kind of break out of their shell, because I like to know that I understand the whole picture before I go saying something, doing something, or being something that I shouldn't be.
That makes sense.
I see. So you're like less reactive, more kind of analytical in the way you handle things?
Yeah, I'm not a very reactive person. I'm an emotional person, but as far as like my actions, my emotions don't always dictate those. Sometimes they do. But
you're
human,
But. And how I learned to navigate that is like for him, it's very important for me to ask. Like, you know, things can be totally great, and let's say it's a Sunday, because usually it happens like on the weekend whenever we're just home, not really doing anything, chilling on the couch, and I'll ask him, hey, how's our marriage going? Like, I literally say that, like, how do you feel about our marriage right now? How do you feel about our relationship? Is there anything that I've done lately that has hurt you or concerned you, or how can I be better? Like, just anything at all. Is there anything that went well that you really liked? What, like, just anything, open floor to talk about whatever you want to. And it's been really interesting because when I do that, like, there have absolutely been times where I'm expecting there to have been no complaints, you know, but then he'll bring something up like, oh yeah, last week or like a few days ago when we were talking about this, you did or said X, Y, and Z. Do you think that you can tweak that? And then it opens the floor for conversation. So, and that's been great. But I think now you have become, maybe our relationship is just more solid where you're able to bring it up more in the moment. But especially in the beginning, that was very helpful too, because I knew how you were. You wouldn't really bring things up. You're not a confrontational person. So having those conversations where I asked you straight up, is there anything? And please tell me, don't hold back, because I want to know. I want to know all those things. That's been helpful.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just easier to have the conversation when you're not in the heat of the moment.
For sure.
Right? If something's bothering you right then, you're going to be so much more passionate about it. And I feel like that can taint your ability to have a healthy conversation. At least for me, it can. Yeah. And so I tend to wait and have those conversations later when it's a very controlled environment where heads are calm and everybody's happy. Granted, we don't really get upset with each other. It's not that our heads aren't calm, but in a sense, your mind is calm and ready to talk rather than ready to fight.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I kind of want to get into red flags.
That's what I wanted to talk about next too.
Like, in your opinion, think back to when you guys were, or when you were single and dating, both of you, and kind of like thinking about, like if you were giving advice to a guy friend, you're like, man, these were my experiences and like the red flags I would avoid. Does anything like come to mind?
In general, or even just like personal experience you had? It could be super niche if you want.
Yeah.
Red flags to me really include games.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a serious man looking for a serious relationship, I want an equal partner. I don't want to be questioning it. I don't want there to be tests of my love. I don't want you to be trying to feel me out and play with my mind in order to try to get me to be something that you want me to be, not something that I actually am.
Yeah.
And so, and it can go along the lines of manipulation. And I know it's not usually done to manipulate somebody, but games aren't fun. Nobody would like it. A girl wouldn't like it if a guy was playing games with her. That gets all sorts of bad raps and really bad names, and that gets guys in a lot of trouble because they're just out playing games. It goes the same way for girls. So a red flag for me is toying around with my emotions, playing a game, even if it's harmless, trying to not send me a message intentionally for hours to see if I'm going to claw at you and chase you. I don't really like that, because that's not my partner. That's not what I'm looking for in my wife.
And that's just immaturity anyway.
Yeah. but it's popular, it's common, it's something that people like to do. And some people like to chase. Some people love that game of chasing. Guys love that sometimes. But is that what you want? Do you want somebody who likes the games? Because that's going to cause more games later on. You don't want games with your emotions.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think like, oh man, I feel like there's like could be a ton of different types of red flags. I would say like probably one of the bigger ones for me is how like if the person is not treating other people well.
Yeah.
Right. So like just people that are like rude to other people,
or like mean girls.
Yeah.
Like how they treat their friends.
Yeah, how they treat their friends, how they treat their family, how they treat strangers off the street, or even like a server, waitress. You know, for me at least, those are red flags. And then I also think too, just like a red flag is like, at least for me and kind of what I've seen is like if somebody is chasing out their attention.
Like how? Like in what way?
Like chasing out their attention, whether it's like just from like other like the opposite sex.
So like posting sexy pictures or like
it's all about somebody's beliefs and what they're okay with in this and third.
Yeah.
But it could be like sexy photos, or it could be like just wanting like the opposite sex attention and like going to whatever length that looks like. Like just as far as like if I'm a man and I see that my woman is always seeking attention from others or validation from others, and for me at least it could be a red flag, because it's like, how can I ever make you feel validated, or how is my validation alone good enough?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
I don't know if I worded it correctly, but yeah,
I think so. It's tough because women want to feel desirable, and that can be a tough thing, like for sure. If you don't learn self-love, respect, self-validation, and all that in a relationship, like that can be a very unhealthy avenue in a relationship.
Well, and it's not to say that a man shouldn't be chasing a woman. I mean, there's a natural order to things.
For sure.
That's kind of how it goes, and that's okay. Like, and you should want to feel desired. You should be desired. If you are not being chased at all, and a guy is not trying to win you over and they aren't trying to earn you, then that's a red flag going the other way. But it goes both ways. If you aren't trying to earn their care and their love and their attention through healthy ways, it goes both ways. 1,000%. You can't expect to be chased, but not also. It's a give and take. If you are not giving it all, then
1,000%.
you're gonna lose. You're gonna have a casual relationship, and odds are it's probably going to fall apart.
And I think red flags are also tough, because it's like, for me, whenever like one of like, whether it's a high schooler or one of my friends, and they bring a flag to me and they're trying to debate if it's like red or yellow or this and the third, I always like check like what on them, like what are they doing? Are you causing this flag as well though? Because I think too, like even when I did say like, you know, attention or validation, like I would always check myself first to see if I'm not sitting there providing that need for that person. And if I'm not providing it, then I can understand that. Now, if I feel like I am providing it and I do have that conversation with the individual and they tell me I'm providing that, and yet it's still like, that's a characteristic or like that's a habit of what they have, then that's when I consider that a red flag. Because I think that us as like men, I mean, I think it's hard. I'm harder on men in life, and it's just kind of how I am. But like I always, like anytime one of my friends brings something to me, I always like make sure that they're looking themselves in the mirror first before we're really going after that.
That's very self-reflective. That's amazing. I feel like so many problems in a relationship can be solved just by self-reflecting, because it's just talking about meeting each other's needs. Like if, you know, like there are a lot of problems that arise in relationships because a need isn't being met. And like, you know, we're just go from 0 to 100, but like cheating, sometimes it's just because that person has like a bad heart or like an immature heart, but a lot of the times it's because a need has not been met over and over and over again. And it's like, you know, that person did a very, you know, a hard to forgive action, but also like, was their partner meeting their needs? Has that been communicated? Like, it's just a hard thing. Yeah. So like making sure that both of you guys are meeting your expectations.
Yeah. And then even just like the concept of red flags, we're all just sinful human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like everyone has their flag, so to speak. But I don't know, just like thinking when you're looking at a flag, just that question, is it harmful? Is it hurtful? Could this be damaging down the road? Is this person's character?
Yeah.
Like it goes so much deeper because I don't want people to be like, oh, it's a flag, just throw it all away.
Mm-hmm.
But to really sit there and think like, okay, for me and myself and my values, if I am considering spending a life with a person,
Yeah.
is this something we can, if I can help this person work on, because marriage is sanctifying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna, we're not dating because we're perfect and our marriage is going to be perfect. It's like, no, I have my crap, he does too. But is it something that we're actively working on separately and together as like a unit?
Yeah.
I think Brandon just hit it on the head though. Like just games. I think games
That's
are like
true.
kind of like the very baseline of like.
100%.
Oh yeah, that's a
red
character
flag
issue.
no
Yeah,
matter
that's a
what.
character
You know
issue
what I
for
mean?
Yeah.
So-
It shows like, insecurity, and
Yeah,
it's just something to work on.
Well,
for sure.
there's also a difference between a red flag and an incompatibility.
Yeah.
What you may perceive as a red flag, if a girl says, hey, that's a quiet man, that means they're not a protector, that means they're X, Y, and Z, and you can infer a lot of things based on what you may see as a red flag. Some things are also just incompatibilities. That doesn't make
Yeah.
somebody a bad person. There's a difference between those
Yes.
two. And so that's hard. We talk about red flags. Sometimes it's just, I don't like this. That's a red flag to me, but to Kai, he may be all about that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
like, you know what? I want somebody that's, I don't know, fiery or quiet or whatever it may be.
1000%.
Everybody's different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some generic red flags
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Like
you're-
universal red flags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're cheating and you're,
Yeah, the social
Yeah.
media thing, like you brought up. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are like generic ones.
Like Kaylin always says, there's a lid to every pot.
Absolutely.
Yes, amen.
Yep. I always tell people all the time, like, for my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, this isn't what I'm going for. Now, for
Yeah.
somebody else's life,
Mhm.
totally fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So-
And there are like, we make this really complex. Like there are different people are at different places in life, and someone that has put in a ton of work into self-development is going to need someone that's like equally yoked with that. But someone that hasn't, like, like an 18-year-old isn't going to be happy in a relationship with a 30, like not actual like chronological years, but like I'm just talking about maturity levels.
Right.
Like, you want to date someone that you're equal
Equally,
with. Yeah. So maybe to them, like that red flag isn't a red flag. Like that's just their maturity level.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, but that's
Oh.
that's complicated.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that we could run on for hours.
Yeah.
that's where dating comes into play. That's where time needs to play its course, and you need to mature together before
Yeah.
you commit together.
Absolutely.
Some
That's
things just
important.
come with years and experience. So I guess that's a good segue into this question. How important is compatibility in values, interests, and lifestyle when considering a long-term relationship? And that there's a lot of components in that question. Just back to Hey Girl Hey, early years values, like
Yeah, that was like our
second episode.
talking
Yeah.
about values. Yeah,
And I love that topic because you brought it up to me about how like a relationship working out is more about compatibility than like just rejection. You know what I mean? So,
well, and your values inform why you make certain decisions too,
uh-huh.
and why you act a certain way or carry yourself a certain way, or you say yes to these things over certain other things. It just informs so much of your life. So having like compatible values is important. But what were the lists you just said? The values?
Values, interests, and lifestyle.
Okay, yeah.
Values, interest, lifestyle. I think that, like, I don't know. I think that with values, it's like, I don't think they have to perfectly align. I do think that, like, they should be somewhat similar. And if they're not, like, I just think that you're just going to have a harder relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think that like at the end of the day is like, you would absolutely have to throw everything away. I just think that like you just have to walk into that with more proper expectations, as far as like hey, this might just be a little bit tougher. I think that, you know, having like values that do align more, like the more your values do align, I think that an easier relationship will be on like just the overall things in life.
Yeah.
And like interests, like I don't honestly with like interests, like I don't really care about like the
Really?
whole interest thing too much, you know, just because
I don't
it's
know.
like
Do we have common interests?
right, like it's like certain things,
Food.
Food.
Yes,
It's,
we're very passionate about
yeah,
food.
it's like food, the
Yeah.
Lord. It's like certain things, right? But like of like
We
interest.
like movies.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
more so cool that like I have my own interests, she has her own
Yeah.
interests, and we could both introduce each other to our interests, you
That's
know.
true.
Yeah.
And it kind of like allows us to like broaden our perspective,
Yeah.
more so to say. And then like lifestyles, I think lifestyles could be a little bit more important.
Yeah. 'Cause that's more like religion, like how you're going to live on the day to day, like
yeah.
what you're going to
Working
eat.
out.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
And-
think of routines.
Yeah, and because I think more for me at least and I know this isn't part of like the question or wasn't listed, but mine is more so like morals. You know,
Yeah.
I think morals are more important than all the other things
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like we can kind of figure out the other things. You know,
Yeah.
I mean lifestyle is cool, but like it's like if you don't work out, like say like working out's important to me, but if you don't work out 7 days a week, like I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
But if they
mean?
didn't work out at all, because it's interesting you bring
Yeah.
that up. That was one of the things that was like when I was dating, that was an incompatibility where if I was interested in a guy and I knew he did not move his body at all,
Yeah.
it would give me the ick.
Yeah. No, and I respect that. I think that like because this is the thing too. It's like it's tough because like I think anybody that's like somebody that actually really goes to the gym and works out, I think you go through phases. You know what I mean? Where like you sit there and you work out 7 days a week, and then like you go through a phase where you go like 5 days a week, and then you go
Yeah.
through a phase where like once a week or not at all for like a period of time in life. So I think that like overall just seeing like the character of the person, whoever the person is, like maybe like you don't work out in this season of your life, but maybe the next season of your life, then you're gonna hold. So I don't know. I think that's a great question and something that something to chew on a little bit as far as like lifestyle goes. But I mean, it would be tough if it was like like I don't go out to clubs and this and that. She's like every weekend we going out there, like probably not. You know what I mean? So I think like if it's like the bigger things like that where it's like I think that does go back to compatibility, but like if it's like the bigger things like that, then I think those are bigger issues. But if they're like small little things like are they like what do you say, harmful, blah blah blah, what is it?
Is it just like discomfort, like uncomfortable, or is it hurtful and harmful?
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
I think if it goes back to like the hurtful or harmful part where
Or
it
just
can
like uncomfortable.
for your relationship, if it hurts it or if it will harm it, then I think that's when the
I
issue
always
comes
bring
about.
this up. Everyone's gonna be like, shut up. But I feel like how I sum it up is like the difference between oil and water, like incompatibility, or like gears. Like, one gear has like the forks and the other gear is like the, whatever. But they turn each other and they make the machine work.
Beautiful, Lori. That's such a good picture. I love it.
Yeah. And then I remember like when you were dating, it would come up where, like, I like how you were saying that your guys' interests are different, but it's cool because it broadens your horizons.
Yeah.
So that's like a symbiotic, like, a good relationship.
And I think we have enough common interests to, also have.
Not have so much tension.
No, exactly. Yeah. Because if we're constantly like, oh, I don't really want to do that. Like, for instance, he loves golfing. I'm sure Brandon feels this way too because he loves golfing too. But I don't hate golf. I jokingly say I hate golf. But also, I'm like, you know what? If he loves it and I love him and more opportunities to hang out with him and I can like film him and he can work on his swing or stroke or whatever you call it, I think that's fun. Like, to me, that's fun. And also, I don't mind playing too. I really don't. I just have a bad back.
Yeah.
It's news to me.
Anyway,
I
or
feel
like,
attacked because
instance-
they were trying to get me to go golfing with them tomorrow, and I'm like, no. I put my foot down.
Or for instance,
I'll get her out. She'll come
It's
out
too
with
funny. One of these days.
You would love to
Have
drive the cart, you know?
No,
Yeah,
it's too
driving
hot.
the car is
There's
fun.
so many. There are more reasons why not to go than to go.
I respect
get
What if it was
it. Believe me, I
78
get it.
degrees on a nice
That's a different
fall
story.
morning?
That's a different story.
It's
Okay, we'll
beautiful.
go
The
in the
grass is
fall.
green.
We'll go in the
Okay.
fall.
Ugh, fine.
There's one time I had to bring like blankets and like pillows and like put it in
Yeah.
like the
My
cart
back really
for her
bad.
just to sit. through the
Oh man,
That was awful. I hurt my back so bad.
talk about jumping through hoops. But I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you for going
Thank
with
you.
him.
Well, I'll bring up this one little example, but he's really into cooking. Like he took like 4 years of culinary.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's like a
Cook
fun
us
hidden-
something. It's
No,
lunchtime.
literally, yeah, for
yeah,
real.
I don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want anyone asking me. to
Sorry.
cook.
Well, he cooks for me. Anyway, so for one like fun surprise date nights, like once in a while we'll surprise each other. I was like, oh, I want to take him to like a culinary cooking class. Like I think that'd be so fun. So we went and he owned the class. He freaking loved it. And me, I was kind of out of my element. Like, yeah, I can cook a little bit, but he's like he knows how to chop things like properly and all these little nifty, tricks. But he's broadened my horizons to stepping out of my comfort zone, trying new cuisines. Like we made Indian food, which I didn't grow
Ooh,
up
I love
having
Indian food.
So even that right there, it's like, okay, we don't share that common interest, but I've enjoyed exploring more of what he's interested in, and it's
Yeah.
broadened my horizons.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was yummy. We ate samosas. It was I loved it.
Samosas. Wait, what are samosas again?
They're like the little, almost like a Indian empanada.
Oh,
That's the best way I
okay.
can
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah.
It's like an Indian.
Yeah, it's usually
version.
filled more so like vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so good.
Yeah. When people say samosas, I always think Samoas, like the cookie.
The Girl Scout cookie.
Oh.
Yeah, so I always think
Totally
I'm
different
sure
vibe.
I've been confused in conversations
Oh, yeah.
before by that.
You're like, I love Samoas. They're like, we definitely said samosas, but whatever.
Dang, I want Indian food now.
I know. Kai's hungry.
Yeah, we're definitely eating after
Yeah, I
this.
actually have been fasting all day, technically. But anyway, I ate an orange. Anyway.
There you go.
Oh, man. Oh, okay. This is more of like a Lori question because I kind of have this like unofficial, not rule, but like guideline of advice that I give to girls. And I say, when the girls that are in, they're ready for a marriage. They're ready for a relationship like that. That's just like how Kaylin was. Like she was not dating just to like have fun. She was trying to find her husband.
Yeah.
My advice is like just in general, do not date a guy that is under 25. Because guys under 25, and I still like kind of, I mean maybe if he's 24 or if he's whatever, like whatever, but like I feel like it's not even just men, because I feel like the point of your 20s, especially early 20s, is to be selfish, and I think that's okay. Like no shame in that. I feel like in your early 20s you are supposed to be figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life. You're supposed to be getting your education. You're supposed to be building friendships. You're supposed to be learning hard lessons in a relationship that will ultimately build character and strengthen who you are. Like, I just feel like it is such a growing period. So, like, no hate on people that are just still trying to figure it out that aren't mature yet. Yeah. But I feel like in general, like, it's just how it is. Like, I would never advise a 16-year-old to get married. Like, I wouldn't advise a 22-year-old to get married. Like, just if you're in that phase of life. But for women, I do think it's a little bit different because we have different brains. Women's brains mature a little bit faster, and women also hit their peak quicker. So, like, you're usually, that's why women are typically younger than their husbands, because of that maturity gap. So yeah, like in general, I feel like men fall more into that category of like, don't date a guy that's under 25.
Yeah.
How old are you?
24.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't mind.
But you have friends. Like Kai, you are seriously so mature. If you told me that you were 30, I'd believe it. Like and honestly, like I can't look at someone and like pinpoint their age. I really can't.
I suck at that too.
Yeah. So like, you are so mature. I really truly mean that. But I'm sure you have guy friends that are around your age or like younger that you're like, oof, I could not recommend a woman that I have such high esteem for and recommend her to you. Like,
no, I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying. I think for me, like the whole marriage thing, first of all, first and foremost, I'm not the best person to even talk on this subject because obviously I'm not married. We're not married.
Yeah.
I've never been married, so like it's even a hard thing for me to speak on. But I do agree with the whole concept that, like, you know, when you are in your younger years, you should definitely be focusing on yourself. And I can't really speak for women, but for men at least, it's like I think you should definitely take those years to like really like kind of like lay down your foundation.
Yeah.
More so in a sense of like the man that you want to be, the man that you are, the man that you're trying to be. And like again, just building that foundation first to kind of like once you can sit there, get to a certain level and like introduce that woman into your life or have that woman into your life to where like you're still not like trying to figure out your identity and like figure out all like the little smaller things. And at the same time, I also believe that like it's not our timing.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like it's really the Lord's timing, and it could be like somebody could be really young. And like both of my sisters, they both got married really young, like 18, 19 years old, and their partners were the same. And like they have a beautiful marriage. I mean, they've been married 10 plus years now. And I think it's also circumstantial. But I definitely know like the people that you are talking about that like, yo, dog, like you need to figure out your own ish before like
because you're just straight up toxic.
Yeah, no,
to our relationship.
1,000%. And I think Kay and I actually, we had this conversation not too long ago, but it's like, I do get frustrated because like people are so young and they're so fixated on like getting married and finding the right person. And I'm like, dude, woman, you haven't even figured out your own stuff in life yet.
Yeah.
Like at least like take those steps first.
Yeah.
Or, like while you're taking those steps, maybe the Lord might bless you with that husband or that wife, but like at least focus on yourself and focus on growing and learning and like again building that foundation before you like, I don't know. It does really annoy me anytime that like I talk to young adults and the only thing they talk about is marriage, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, you think you have it all together.
Yeah.
When I was 20 years old, I thought I was all that in a bag of chips, and I
sure.
had it all figured out. I was like, I can run with life. Like, life is not all that
I'd be
bad.
a good husband.
But there's a lot of things you don't realize that you probably don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's about life and finance, whether it's about I think for a lot of men, it's emotional.
Absolutely.
Because boys grow up and we play sports, we play with superheroes and video games, and again, we're jumping into traditional gender roles, whereas girls are more into emotional things, right? Yeah. Let's talk house, let's talk babies, let's think about these things. It's a wiring in the brain. It's not that it's always that way, but men are typically less emotionally mature. Yeah. Physically mature, yes. Physically capable, yes. And so, when you're 20 years old, you're absolutely physically capable of a relationship, but are you emotionally capable of that? Do you understand how to react if something happens? It's just like if something
1,000%.
happens in life, our neighbor's car explodes and destroys. Now we have this insurance fiasco and we're trying to navigate this. There's some things that you've just never experienced in life that you're not going to understand how to navigate in a relationship until you've been through that, until time
1,000%.
has presented those opportunities to you. And men just don't typically have those emotional trials, emotional experiences until later, because it just hasn't been on the forefront of their mind.
1,000%. And I think that's huge too, because like I think as men, right, again, can't speak for women, but for men, it's like, you are supposed to lead the household, you know, and you are supposed to be able to sit there and like going through that and like being able to navigate it and like navigate it in a way that like she still feels safe, and like she still feels secure and you going throughout that process. And I think that it does take life for men to sit there and like really go through some stuff in life to figure out like, okay, how does the world catch on fire around me and I still can keep moving forward without allowing her to be so up and down with emotions, because I do think women and men, they are obviously created differently. And some women aren't built to sit there and walk through that fire as well,
Yeah, well, also how to navigate things that aren't so traditional, right? If I have a wife who was working and a very successful working woman, how to navigate that of, wait, I'm not the sole provider. I am not taking all this responsibility on myself. What I thought was going to be my job in a relationship, for example, when we first got married, what would have typically been what I thought was the man's job was not just on me.
Yeah.
So now I have to learn to balance other responsibilities and other tasks that maybe, especially when I was younger, I didn't think was my job. Yeah. And so I wouldn't have been emotionally prepared to handle those types of challenges, even though it's just normal daily things.
Yep. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like laying down the ego.
Yeah. Well, men are prideful.
Yeah.
Men tend to be very prideful, and we don't like to lay down our egos. So, but it's important to be able to do that. Not always. Yeah. It's there for a reason, but
that's true.
Follow-up question. So in healthy relationships, do you guys, and like talking about maturity and just having to like put aside your ego, do you guys ever feel demasculinized in a relationship? Like, maybe there are certain times in your life where your wife makes more money than you, or like your wife is more mature than you, like with your with friendships, or like, I don't know, just because men are, they're looked at in society like the head of the household, the provider, the head. Yeah. And, like just life isn't that way anymore. Like women aren't supposed to just only be submissive.
It depends on how it's given as well. So from a man's perspective, let's say I have a wife, let's say she's making more money than me and she is taking a lot of those roles. Are you making that known? Are you pushing that on me? Are you demasculinizing me? Right? Yeah. I don't know if that's how you'd want to say it, but like, are you making me feel less important because of that? Or is this a partnership?
Amen.
Because for me, just as a general rule, no, not at all. I'm never going to be hurt by or put down by your success or something that you are doing. But if you are doing it in a way that's going to make me feel smaller, make me feel like I'm not doing my role because you are taking that, or you're doing something I'm supposed to be doing, if you're approaching it like that, then absolutely.
Yeah.
But from a healthy, what I like to think is a healthy mindset, no, I'm not hurt by that at all.
Yeah.
But really? I could be if it's presented to me that, hey, this is you and I'm doing this. You need to step up your game. Then yeah, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt, especially if you're trying. But if it's, hey, this is our partnership, this is me and you, and we're in this together, then no.
What's mine is yours,
Yeah. No, I agree on that. And I think that too, I also believe that like you can make a man feel that way without it being like the more material things in life, because I don't believe that like a man leading a household is like solely based off of like being the breadwinner and doing all these different things, but still just being able to show up and like create stability, even if that's like in an emotional way, or like how you're like driving your relationship more so in a sense. But I think that I think a man can feel that way if a man is like disrespected. I mean, there's a book called Love and Respect, right? Like a woman wants love, a man wants respect. Yeah. And I think that like if you are disrespecting like the man, then I think that it is easy to become, how you say it, demasculized. Because like
big word.
Please. But I think then, I think like what you're saying, like I think it can be very easy then, because I think it just, for a man, I think it comes down to respect more so than not, and feeling that or not feeling that kind of.
Yeah. So. Okay. Interesting.
I have like 2 questions. Kind of going back to dating. I don't know which one to ask first, but I guess what were your guys' experience with rejection? Like, let's say you were pursuing a girl, you really wanted to date her or whatever, and just getting rejected maybe time after time, and any guys struggling out there with rejection, like what advice would you give?
Use it as an opportunity to work on yourself. It may not be because of you, right? It may be them, but that means you just have more time to work on you to become a better person. And if you're trying to find the best person for you, the better you are, the more likely you are to find that.
Yeah.
So use those times as an opportunity to first reflect inside and say, okay, did I have a role in this, right? But don't overthink it. Sometimes you just aren't compatible.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody just doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. They just don't want to date you.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that people hate you and that nobody wants you. Sometimes you're just not the person for them. And that's okay. So don't think so deep into it and say, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Or why doesn't everybody want me? And
am I lovable?
Am I lovable? But take it in stride and say, that's okay. Yeah. I don't want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with me anyways. So if they don't want to be, they're lost. If you know you're the catch and you know you're all that, they're lost. Do you want to be with them if they don't want to be with you? Yeah. No. Okay. And, in another world, if you could change who that person is, that's great. Yeah. But it sounds like you're attracted to one thing about them and you don't know the rest of them. Yeah. So you're attracted to how they look, to how they laugh, to how they act around other people, but you're not going to be attracted to how they treat you. Yep. Yeah. So you only get one little piece of that. So maybe focus on looking for these other qualities in the people rather than just what you're seeing, and go after those as well.
1,000%. I think we talked about it on the last podcast, but it's just like, if one door shuts, a new door opens. And again, I'm just a firm believer that when that new door opens, it's just going to be so much greater than the last door. Yeah. So what's meant for you is going to be, and if it's not meant for you, then it's just not meant for you. Who cares? Move on.
There's something better.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. I have an issue whenever it's boo-hoo me, boo-hoo this. Yeah. Who cares, man? The Lord just protected you from that person.
Amen.
Yes.
Who's coming in next is going to be so much better.
Man's rejection is God's protection.
Yeah. So who cares? Dude, Brandon said, just keep working on yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to come.
Yeah.
You're just not ready, bud.
Yeah.
That's just what it is at this point in time.
Yeah. And it is going to be better because it's going to be the difference between forcing a shoe to fit and then the shoe just fitting.
Amen.
Or forcing a puzzle piece to fit, or it just slipping in and fitting.
Yeah.
You'd rather find out now than later.
Yes.
I mean, how many people, men and women, get in relationships and find out 5 years down the road that there was just never that spark, that it was never just compatible, right? Maybe somebody did lower their standards, not to say that you aren't up to the standards of people,
values.
But they lowered their priorities, what they were looking for, and picked a golfer. And one day you're just going to be angry.
We got 2 golfers.
Right? But for somebody that might be a big problem, and they might be like, that bothers me. I don't like that. And it's a silly example, but you'd rather find out now. You'd rather just get it out of the way. And is there a chance that a relationship could have worked? I think there's a chance that you could force any sort of relationship to work. People who are being abused make their relationships work. It's not that it's working well, it's not that it's healthy. You could make it work, but do you really want that? I don't.
I think what you're touching on is settling, especially I don't know, I feel like growing weary in the waiting season can be a thing. I know I definitely struggle with that. I'm like, well, Lord, they're okay. And God's just looking at me like, girl,
just focus on the positive.
Yeah, exactly. But if I wouldn't have waited, I would have missed out on literally the best thing that's happened to me. So I think just hanging in there, and relationships, they're fun. They're so much fun to talk about the topic and stuff, and especially in a young adult community, that's the number one topic. We want, I guess we have the desire, most of us, to want to pair off, to get married, to grow a family, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's a very beautiful thing, but also we can't idolize it and then unfortunately settle on partnerships that just are forced to work. Not that they can't work, but just forcing it.
I think it's tough. I feel like a lot of times we get mixed up between making it happen, in terms of career, business. Sometimes you just really have to, you have to make it happen. You have to grind. But I feel like a lot of people adopt that mentality when dating too, and in relationships. But I don't know. It's hard to balance that in your life. Like letting, letting it be. And like, I feel like we all are believers in just like what is meant for you will happen. You don't even need to really try. It's just God's timing.
Yeah.
But then like, for entrepreneurs, like we know, like it's not going to just happen. Like, your dreams with business and stuff, it's not going to just happen. It's not going to fall in your lap. Like you have to put blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I just feel like it's interesting because like you said, some people's situations where they're in an abusive relationship or a bad marriage that just, just really sad situation. Like that's always in my experience, the justification that comes up is, marriage is hard work. You got to make it happen. Like you got to force the compatibility. So it's like, it's a really hard thing to try to figure out, No,
it really is. Yeah. What's your guys's, I guess, favorite date in your relationship? Like think back to, your times of dating or for you guys marriage, just like one date night that really stuck out or maybe one day or occurrence or memory. I guess like your favorite memory in your relationship so far.
That can be tough because there's like dates where you say, okay, we had the most fun, or there's some of the most meaningful dates. And that can be hard because I think back to when we were dating. We were very early on in dating, and I'm not a dancer. I don't dance, but we went, and I think your brother was there. It was like
like country dancing,
like a swing dancing group activity. Not my favorite date in terms of things that I've done, because again, I'm not a dancer. I'm not enthused, but I had a great time. I was out of my comfort zone, out of my shell a little bit. But for me, from an emotional connection, it was the day before what I felt like was a pretty deciding moment in our relationship, where it was, hey, we've only been dating for a little bit of time here. It's only been a couple of weeks, honestly.
I think three weeks.
Only a couple of weeks. But I really am seriously into this girl. I want her. And I feel like on that day, it was the day before she went on a long vacation where we were going to be separated. For some reason, that date just stands out in my mind as a time where I feel like I built an emotional connection because she wasn't gone, but I was missing her. And I started feeling that, and this is going to hurt not having her around. And it's simple. It was a week long. She was going to be gone to Disney World and stuff with her family. But for me, it was an emotional date where I was like, I feel connected. And I feel like I'm about to be disconnected a little bit, and that hurts me. So like poignant dates for me is when that emotional connection really started to build, and I felt like I wanted this person with me all the time. And I realized that not having them, even for a short period of time, was going to hurt. And I couldn't just let it happen. And I remember I wrote you a letter, I think, didn't I? Something like that. I don't know. It was awkward.
Really
it was weird, but
his answer, I didn't know any of that about the country dancing.
I just think
leaving.
But for me, it was an emotional date.
Yeah.
It wasn't the biggest standout. We had an amazing time, and we went and did this crazy thing. But for me, it was important because I learned that this is a person that I not only like and think I could work with, but that I really, really didn't want to lose. So.
Oh, that is so sweet.
That is so sweet. Yeah, that was all right. You never told me that, so why haven't you ever told me that?
We've talked about it.
You never asked.
We've talked about it a little bit, but.
Oh,
that's dope.
That's sweet.
I love
that comes to mind.
All right.
Oh, it's on me now.
Yeah. Favorite memory.
Dang. I feel like it's hard to follow that up.
It is hard to follow.
You put me in a tough spot. No.
Oh man, no.
I think honestly for me, I mean, it might be a little like cliche in a sense, but it was our first date. I just remember like just the nerves of like leading up to the first day. And it was something that like I just didn't experience before, because like even like I played basketball high level and all this stuff, and I just never got nervous, you know. And I remember being nervous, and I was like, what is this? I'm like, what is even going on? And then I just remember like picking her up, and the amount of peace she brought me was like,
wait, can I interject?
Like the nerves diffused when you were in her presence. Okay.
it was like, oh no, like everything's fine.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like everything in the world's fine.
When he said he was nervous, y'all, he showed up. He showed up around my neighborhood, like to pick me up, because he was nervous about being late to pick me up, because I live far or whatever.
Yeah.
So he wanted to pick me up, and then the restaurant was like 2 minutes from his house. And so I was like, I didn't know that, but I'm like, hey, if we're going somewhere in, you know, by where you live, like, let me just drive. Like, don't worry. And he's like, no, I want to pick you up. So he drove like 45 minutes to come pick me up. And he was around my neighborhood like 2 hours before our date, because that's how nervous he was.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I went. I got like a car wash.
Maybe even like 3 hours.
Cleaned out my car. Like,
that sounds excessively. Do you not have like maps on your
No,
phone?
I had
No,
maps.
yeah, he was
I had
just
maps.
nervous.
Yeah, I had maps. I was just like, I just in general, I hate being late to things.
Yeah,
That's
Like-
aligning value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, like I just really, really hate being late to things. And I was just like, okay, well, it's like 45 minutes. I mean, if there's traffic, then like it's already an hour. And then I'm like, well, I
And
gotta
if I
grab.
get hit by a plane,
You know what I mean?
Literally.
I gotta grab flowers, and like
Aw.
I gotta do all these different things. So I was like, all right, let me just. It's like 2.5 hours early. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'd rather be early than late. So then, you know, when I washed my car, cleaned it out,
So
you know,
funny.
had some alone time for a little bit.
It was very sweet.
Man.
But yeah, then, you know, picked her up, and just our first date was just dope. It was like just the intentionality behind it all was something that was really cool. Then the conversation at dinner was great, and then we like walked around like this like little art thing. It was like the outside art thing, and it was like in the water
an
and the
art show.
canals and all
Cool.
this stuff, and it was dope. But it was just like it was the same thing. It was like the emotional connection that I felt was built on that date. Was like, I felt like it was like the start to like the first layer of our foundation. So yeah, it was my favorite little date.
Your last first date?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it honestly felt like that. I remember taking it really seriously our first date. Like I mean, we both like, you know, shop for new outfits, and although that might sound silly, like, no, we wanted to, you know, put some effort in. And then I remember texting my mom, and I was like, Mom, I think this is my last first date. And she was like, I feel it too. Like, I really think it is.
I think
And it
that's so
was.
cute. I feel like that's how a man knows, or like you can assess that in a man, is whenever, you know, a confident man and he feels like a boy again on the first date, because for him, like, I know we've told this story, but he could not speak on the first date. Like, it was I love it. It's so endearing now.
It is.
But on the first date, I was like, does he have like a is he slow? Like,
Dad, Lauren.
he could not speak.
Oh my gosh, it's
but
so
literally,
funny.
it
Yeah.
is the sweetest
It
thing.
is
Like, it gives me
sweet.
butterflies thinking about our first date,
Yeah.
because I just look up so much to him. He is the smartest man I've ever met.
Yeah.
Truly, I truly mean that. Like, if my IQ's here, his is like, you know, through the roof. Like, he's just, you know, he doesn't ever get lost for anything, and he was lost that first date. I mean, I just love it. And you showing up 2.5 hours early, what in the world?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing either. I was FaceTiming different people. I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing in life. I'm nervous right now.
Yeah.
My heart's beating out of my chest. I'm sitting here in a gas station parking lot, just going through every scenario in my head.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
I was like, oh my
yeah, because I'm sure
goodness.
you weren't like that on every date. Like, it just shows how special she was to you. And you
Oh
knew
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, I'm telling you, I never get nervous for anything, and I
Yeah.
was like I could feel my heart coming out of my chest.
which
And
is
my arm-
abnormal for like an athlete.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
we both played competitive sports our entire lives. To have pressure put on us and to be
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to perform under this.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have been able to do that as an athlete.
Exactly.
It's something else. It's a whole nother world.
Oh, dude, my
with
arms,
the right person.
My arms were like my arms felt like noodles. Like my arms felt weak. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening. And I just remember like, Lord, please help me.
That is so sweet. I can't.
It is so sweet. Oh, what a nice episode.
You guys have stood in our hearts again.
I know, literally. I'm like going down memory lane. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, that
thanks,
wraps.
you guys.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. And until next time, bye, you guys.
Bye.